Continuing my review of important director scripting terminology that you'll run across while learning more about adding scripting interactivity and increased capabilities to your director projects, we get to messages. Messages are notices that director sends to scripts when specific events occur in a movie. For example, when the playhead enters a specific frame, the enter frame event occurs and director sends an enter frame message. If a script contains an enter frame handler, the statements within that handler underscore movie.insert frame open close parenth. Although similar in functionality to top-level functions, methods are always called from an object and top-level functions are not. Let's see if we can see any examples of methods here in this Lingo script. I don't see a method, but here's a list in Director right there. Notice that there's another set of or collection of related information. There's the list there with the syntax. That's a properties list. So you have a property as well as a list item. For example, the members of a team together, a sports team, together with maybe their jersey numbers. I have another script ready here. And here we can perhaps see a method. Here's an example of a method. You're setting the MySprite cursor to this particular sprite number right here. So you're setting the sprite cursor. That would be the method. Next we have operators. Operators are terms that calculate a new value from one or more values. For example, the subtraction operator subtracts two or more values from each other to produce a new value. Parameters are placeholders that let you pass values to scripts. Parameters only apply to methods and event handlers and not to properties. They are required by some methods and are optional for others. We ran across parameters when we looked at behaviors. Most behaviors require additional settings or values that are called parameters in order for that behavior to work. For example, a parameter of the mouse cursor would be which mouse cursor icon you want to use. Here's an example script with an author-defined parameter on is okay to attach. Pass along these parameters right there, me, a sprite type, and a sprite number. So again, those are values that I'm passing along to a method in order for a director to do something. Another good example of a parameter would be the movie object's go method. If I were to type this script here, go to frame, the parameter is here in the parentheses. Director needs to know which frame to go to. In this case, 34 is the parameter right there. Next, we get to properties. Properties are attributes that define an object. For example, a sprite in a movie has specific attributes such as how wide it is, how tall it is, its background color, and so on. To access the values of these three specific attributes, you would use the sprite's object's width, height, and back color properties. Here in this script, there's a section labeled properties where I've set up various properties of the sprite object. Here is the offset click from the sprites, the property p locate offset. Here's the property p active. Here's the property p constrained. This constrains to the stage flag. Let's Let's have a look at the other script and see if there are properties defined up here. Yeah, there's a section called properties. My cursor type, my built-in cursor, my custom mask for the cursor. Now that brings us to statements. Statements are valid instructions that director can execute. All scripts are made up of sets of statements. Here is some lingo that constitutes a complete statements. On begin sprite me, set sprite cursor me, end begin sprite right there. And lastly, we get to variables. Variables are elements used to store and update values. Variables must start with a letter, an underscore, or the $sign. Subsequent characters in a variable name can also be digits 0 through 9. To assign values to variables or change the values of many properties, you can use the equals operator. Here's an example of a very simple variable. Here I'm declaring the variable my score equal to 56, so the value 56 will be stored in that variable until I change it, perhaps with another line of code. Let me now move on to the next movie and review in more detail scripting syntax. These are general syntax rules that apply to Lingo and the JavaScript scripting language.